Jisu Jacob. I am 14 years old. I'm primary 4C. I want to be a lawyer when I grow up.
My name is Abubakar Lejo, and I am 13 years. I'm a primary 5B, and I want to be a soldier.
Education is the bedrock of every thriving society. But sadly, Nigeria's educational system is in a serious dilapidated and dysfunctional state. It is in dire need of a revolution and transformation.
Nigeria has at the moment the highest number of out-of-school children in the world. Globally, we have about 61 million children, and in Nigeria, we have 16% of that figure, which is about 10.5 million children currently out of school.
The vast majority of the Nigerian children who go to school are subjected to appalling conditions and taught by teachers who are inadequately trained and insufficiently motivated to effectively discharge the crucial responsibility of developing the next generation of Nigerians. Nigeria's educational system is definitely in a state of crisis, and it is predicted that without immediate action by 2020, Nigeria would have produced a significant population of highly trained and motivated criminals. The question is, where do we go from here?
Education is so fundamental to building a vibrant society, and a society that would be the human capital that would accelerate growth. That you can't say, okay, when I finish building all my infrastructure, then I'll face education. No, you can't say that. You've got to do it in a very integrated and in a very strategic kind of way.
Apostle Jacob. I am 14 years old. I'm primary 4C. I want to be a lawyer when I grow up.
My name is Abubakar and I am 13 years. I'm a primary 5B and I want to be a soldier.
Education is the bedrock of every thriving society. But sadly, Nigeria's educational system is in a serious dilapidated and dysfunctional state. It is in dire need of a revolution and transformation.
Nigeria has at the moment the highest number of out-of-school children in the world. Globally, we have about 61 million children, and in Nigeria, we have 16% of that figure, which is about 10.5 million children currently out of school.
The vast majority of the Nigerian children who go to school are subjected to appalling conditions and taught by teachers who are inadequately trained and insufficiently motivated to effectively discharge the crucial responsibility of developing the next generation of Nigerians. Nigeria's educational system is definitely in a state of crisis, and it is predicted that without immediate action by 2020, Nigeria would have produced a significant population of highly trained and motivated criminals. The question is, where do we go from here?
Education is so fundamental to building a vibrant society, and a society that would be the human capital that would accelerate growth. That you can't say, okay, when I finish building all my infrastructure, then I'll face education. No, you can't say that. You've got to do it in a very integrated and in a very strategic kind of way.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good morning. Not quite sure what the time frame is where you are. My name is Nike D'Souza, Akorele D'Souza, and I'm an education and HR human resources consultant and also the co-founder of Teach for Nigeria. So we welcome all of you to this session. And we look forward to a fruitful 1 hour discussion with our panelists today. So welcome everyone, and I hope you're having a great day already. So our topic today, just to remind you of the session that you're in, today's session is on building programs to enhance employability, entrepreneurship, and life skills. We'll be sharing experiences around financial literacy, financial inclusion, employability, vocational skills. We'll be talking about one of our primary schools that one of our alumni in Teach for Nigeria taught for about 2 years. And we'll also be inviting other panelists that have also done work in terms of employability and entrepreneurship as well, so that we can engage on this topic today. So I'm really excited to have you all join us today. Welcome to everyone. So our panelists today, which we'll be meeting them much later, I just wanted to mention their names, is Temitope Igbeson, who is a Teach for Nigeria alumni and also the co-founder of Empower Her Initiative. And then we also have Bright Ikemasuide, who is also a Teach for Nigeria alumni and also a founder of EduSort. And he'll talk a bit about some of his work in STEM. We also have Irene Bangwell, who is the co-founder of NOSC. And finally, we have Molade Adeniyi, who is the CEO of Wave Academy. So we welcome our panelists and we thank them for joining us today. I'm going to have us play another video very quickly. And very quickly, just to mention that you will not be able to mute or unmute yourself today, just for general guidelines. And please use the hashtag World Education Edu Week so that we can have your comments and you share your own experiences as well. And for translations, for some of you that could also turn on your live caption so that you can see all the translations. And finally, when we have the Q&A session, please put your questions as we talk, as we, throughout the whole session in the question and answer chat box that you can see on at the bottom of your screen. So we look forward to talking to you soon. We're going to show another video shortly and see you soon. Thank you. Over to you.
Hello, my name is Vikas Pota. The reason why we're organizing this global showcase for World Education Week is we believe that schools have incredible expertise in making sure that learning outcomes improve. Given the state of the world, we want to see the expertise from this particular school being replicated in schools all over our planet so that the world becomes better for everyone. That is why I congratulate this school for what it does and hope that those listening can take away conclusions as to how they should actually approach their own improvement journeys. Thank you all for participating, and I look forward to seeing you in many of the other events this coming week. And I also want to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors for supporting this incredible work, without whom we couldn't have put together this global showcase. Thank you, and I wish you well for this event.
Fast-paced social, economic and technology-driven change is redefining our world. And having a broad range of skills such as creativity and problem solving has become far more important than being able to memorize information. To redefine how our children learn and to empower them for the future, parents, teachers and policymakers must stop overlooking a powerful part of the solution: learning through play. Play is the rocket fuel of child development, and there is a growing body of evidence to support that play is fundamental for children's positive growth and well-being over time. It is also an essential way to foster the skills required to thrive in today's world. The LEGO Foundation aims to build a future in which learning through play empowers children to become creative, engaged, lifelong learners. To do so, we work with a range of partners around the world to change the hearts and minds of all of those who influence children's lives. students through our programs, research and advocacy, so they can all embrace the transformative power of play. Examples of what we do include making sure that caregivers, practitioners and policymakers understand the importance of play, investigating, testing and scaling new ways to bring play-based learning into homes and schools, using play to help millions of the world's most vulnerable children cope with adverse childhood experiences and toxic stress. Or conducting research with some of the world's leading research institutions. Please visit our website. Follow us on social media to learn more.
Language connects us all. It's how friendships are formed, ideas are shared, and lessons are learned. Language is how we find understanding and express love. It's how we communicate our successes, both big and small. It lays the groundwork for learning and growth. And for an increasingly diverse student population, it can be the key to achievement in school and beyond. That's why Rosetta Stone Education is dedicated to language and literacy. We offer solutions designed to support teachers and their emergent bilingual students, recognizing and celebrating the knowledge, culture, and languages they bring to our classrooms. Our products are founded on the adaptive blended learning model for individual needs, continuous progress monitoring for better learning outcomes, and culturally responsive pedagogies for more inclusive classrooms. With solutions aligned with proficiency standards, we support language learning while exploring academic subject areas, paving the way to better outcomes. Because for all of us, language is everything. Education is dedicated to language and literacy. We offer solutions designed to support teachers and their emergent bilingual students, recognizing and celebrating the knowledge, culture, and languages they bring to our classrooms. Our products are founded on the adaptive blended learning model for individual needs, continuous progress monitoring for better learning outcomes, and culturally responsive pedagogies for more inclusive classrooms. With solutions aligned with proficiency standards, we support language learning while exploring academic subject areas, paving the way to better outcomes. Because for all of us, language is everything.
Dear T4 community,
Hello,
we
everyone.
talk about teachers these days, but we rarely listen to them. Therefore, I am truly excited to join the T4 World Education Week. To hear from teachers and school leaders all over the world how we can impact learning together. I'm particularly looking forward to the global showcase. 100 schools sharing their
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I'm going to apologize, unfortunately, as you can see, that we have tried. Unfortunately, we don't seem to be able to have our panelists on this session. They seem to be having technical problems at the moment, and so we do not have any panelists at the moment. What the topic we were addressing today was on employability, entrepreneurship, and life skills. And we really wanted to talk to our panelists today to discuss how in the classroom they are also initiating their interventions. We wanted to talk about 21st century skills, to look at financial literacy, to talk about arts education in the classroom, how we could use dance as a way to create creativity, to build creativity skills in the classroom. Our panelists today, Temitope was going to talk to you today essentially about her initiative in Christ Anglican Church, which is a school in Ogun State, which is in a rural area in Ogun State. It's a primary school. It's a low resource school. And essentially, really from the documentary that you have seen, you can see really the state by which Temitope and her team have been working really around trying to build up the skills, 21st century skills of the children. Temitope wanted to talk to you today about how in her classroom in Christ Anglican, in the primary school that she is in, she essentially had built a corner in the classroom for her children in primary school. She was on a 2-year fellowship with Teach for Nigeria in a very low resource area. So she asked her children to essentially gather all the stuff that they could bring from home, used items, and she built a shop inside her classroom. And she asked the children essentially to then begin to trade with each other. They made paper money and they were able to transact. She was able to build up their numeracy skills because they were then able essentially to be able to add and subtract and bargain with each other and go to the market and sell things and buy things. Essentially, really what she wanted to do was for them to begin to appreciate the value of money, and outside of the classroom, how then to begin to transact business. She mentioned to me that she had also started getting the parents involved, and because she realized that the parents were struggling with school fees. And so essentially what she did was she got the community involved. They would come to the school, and she then decided to teach them as well financial literacy. And she then realized that what was happening was now that the parents were now able to manage their own finances, pay for the school fees, and keep their children in school. So the children and the parents were essentially able to do this. And so essentially what had happened was that she got the kids very creative in terms of them actually going out and selecting materials that they could use for this shop in the classroom. So they brought in very creative things. Some of them were raw materials. Some of them were essentially things that they could get from home. So that is Temi Toko's project. She's not here with us today, unfortunately, but I do have one of my panelists here today. I have Molade Adeniyi. Molade, if you're on, could you just say hello to us? Hi, Molade. Are you there with us, Molade? Molade is the CEO of Wave Academy, and she'll be joining us to also tell us a little bit about the interventions that she has in schools in building their employability skills and also preparing our youth for the world of work. So Molade, are you there, please, so that we can have a quick chat? Unfortunately, we've lost quite a bit of time here. It'd be good to hear from you. Hi, Molade, can we hear you?
Yes, great, awesome. So we're having some technology challenges. And I think this is one of those things that in the era that we find ourselves, some of us are struggling to actually be able to log on to the actual platform, but we're still here and we're still going to have this very, very interesting conversation. So it's great to be here. It's World Education Week. Thanks to Teach Nigeria and the entire team for having us here. We're all a little bit flustered, but we're good to go. So let's get right into the meat of the matter.
Fantastic. Welcome, 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 Molade. So I know that you've been doing quite a bit of work in terms of with schools and in vocational training and preparing the youth for employability. Do you want to just share with us some of the things that you've been doing?
Great, awesome. Thank you very much. So I am privileged to work with an organization called WAVE, West Africa Vocational Education. And WAVE was birthed out of a desire to tackle the issue of youth unemployment and underemployment in the country and ultimately across Africa. I think one of the things that we realized very, very quickly was that there is this skills mismatch. So we talk about the skills that the young and very quickly we begin to see that there was this mismatch between the two of them. So we decided, the question is, how do we then bridge this gap? But let's talk about what those skills are. And some of the things that you were saying before. Employers are looking for people that have not just the technical harder skills, but the softer side of skills. The skills where we're talking about communication, problem solving, etc., etc. And I love what Intokwa is doing in bringing that into the classroom. So what we do is at WAVE is focus on these soft skills. We have this acronym, or we have this saying. We say hire for attitude. Employers hire for attitude, they train for skill. If you do not have the right attitude, we don't believe that you can actually get on the job. Please confirm you can still hear me, Mrs. D'Souza. I just want to be sure that I'm not just speaking to myself here.
We can definitely hear you very well. So please go ahead and yes.
You can. Okay, great, awesome. So yeah, so the work that we're doing is, and you know what, I think our education system has actually done, a lot of young people a disservice. We focus a lot of our energies on, teaching subjects like math, English, science, and we do that very well. But the problem is our kids, our children, our youth need to be able to use that the things that are around you to actually be able to get to your skill, to get to your end goal. So for us, the work that we do is building these soft skills, these really important soft skills. We end up, developing and graduating young people who are not necessarily ready for school, or sorry, ready for work. Employers want people who can solve problems, and you can do that in creative ways. Employers want people who can communicate effectively. You can do that through play. You can actually have opportunities in the classroom where you do role play, where you look at situational analysis, allow people to actually engage in debates and speak about different things. And through this, these are ways that we're finding that we're actually ending up with more young people. So our curriculum needs to be revamped, our curriculum needs to be changed, and our way we also do a bit of advocacy work, speaking with educators, government, around how do we upgrade our curriculum so that the children who are coming out we need to do it from primary school, right through to secondary school, so that at the end of the day, we are actually graduating young people who are ready for work. I'll pause there, and I hope you heard all of that, and I'm sure there'll be more questions outside of that.
So thank you, Molade. Thank you so much for giving us that feedback. So can you just tell us specifically what, let's just narrow it down to, for example, give us examples of 1 or 2 interventions that you've done, what age group, which type of school, and what specific strategies have you used that has actually worked for you? So could you share that with us, please?
Sure. So we work with youth aged 18 to 35. So they've gone past primary or secondary school age in terms of the direct work and direct programs that we do. But when it comes to secondary school, we have started to work with teachers and educators. And what we basically do, the specific intervention is I don't want to call it a train-the-trainer session, but we have sessions with teachers and we discuss how do you incorporate some of these training or teaching techniques into your regular teaching. So for instance, we talk about how do you make sure you have group work? How do you make sure you incorporate debate? How do you make sure you improve people's communication skills by allowing them to do presentations, by allowing them to come out and speak? The specific intervention that we did across some secondary schools in Ogun State was we had half that went through this intervention to test our theory, and we have half of half that didn't. And what we're seeing is that even the end result, in terms of how they do academically, the ones who are able to also incorporate these soft skills into their learning and use it and utilize it are actually doing better. As we know, not everybody will have access to go to a university, and people will need to find employment. We also find that the proportion of those who are incorporating soft skills into their learning and the ability to be able to, we call it action-based learning as well, they're actually able to, the employment rate is higher than those without. So on the long run, there are many pros and there are many reasons why we want to revamp and innovate our curriculum to include the soft skills. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much, Molade. I think we'll come back to you to ask a couple more questions later. So I think we'll just very quickly give other panelists a chance to speak now that we've successfully tried to work around the technology issues. So I'm going to ask Irene. Irene, are you there? Okay, I'm going to move on to Temitope. Temitope, I had really tried to summarize a little bit of what you had done before. So I'm hoping that when you come on now that you can actually tell us the full scale of your financial literacy intervention. So over to you, Temitope, please. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us here. It's a major privilege, and I do not take it lightly. Thank you, Mrs. D'Souza, and I'm very, very glad to be here this afternoon. Okay, so for us, basically, I believe that education can only be called education when the learners have been able to transfer their acquired skills, into providing significant solutions that would, transform their families, their communities, the nation, and even the world as a whole. So if learners are unable to do that, to transfer what they learn in the classroom into solutions, then education hasn't taken place. So it's from that point of view that I came about the financial literacy for both, the kids in my classroom and even extended it to the parents eventually. So we started, basically the community, I noticed that the challenge, or one of the key challenges to accessing quality education is finance. And so I started financial literacy in my class for the kids. We had a shopping corner, and so the kids all brought stuff from their houses, used items like bottles of beverages, bottles of perfumes, and things like that. And so they traded among themselves. So I would create scenarios, and the kids were, they took turns to act different characters. There would be some that would be maybe the clients or the customers, the shop owner, the maybe even competitors, basically, whereby maybe a competitor is selling lesser and the student has to convince their customer to buy from them, despite the fact that their own price is higher. So I just used to create several scenarios for them to work with. While they were doing all of that, they were not only learning numeracy, because we had paper monies with which they transacted. So they were not only learning numeracy, they were also learning problem solving, negotiation skills, communication skills, particularly persuasive communication, client relationship, client retention, and all of that. So it was really something that changed their lives, motivated them even to want to be at school. Everybody always wanted to be at the shopping corner. And while they played, they were also learning and gathering life skills, basically, which were also entrepreneurial in nature.
Fantastic. Thank you. So Temitope, is this what did you do this as an extracurricular activity, or was this in one of your classroom sessions? How did you build this into your day-to-day curriculum in the classroom? Because I know that you taught in Christ Anglican for about 2 years during your fellowship. So how did this all work, and how did this fit into the curriculum?
Basically, what we did was our shopping corner time, and so we worked during break time, and sometimes there were things that we would have learned during the day, particularly maybe in mathematics, and we're relating that to what we're doing in shopping corner. Sometimes the next day subject during math, we may have to refer to what we had done at the shopping corner. So usually we had time to do this during break for the kids during break time, and because it was fun for them, because they were basically learning, they were basically playing, but learning as well. So it was something we did during break time.
Fantastic, thank you. So we may come back to you and ask you a couple more questions. So I'm going to introduce our next speaker, who is Irene. Irene is the co-founder of NOSC. Irene, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. Welcome, Irene. So do you want to share with us some of the initiatives that you're doing as well?
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be a part of the Education Week this year. So my name is Irene Banwell. I'm the co-founder of the NOSC 100 Naira Day School. The NOSC 100 Naira Day School is a public-private secondary school designed for children from low-income families. For 100 Naira a day, school children get books, uniform, 1 meal a day, and the girls get monthly sanitary pads. The NOSC school is offering children from low-income families quality action learning education that equips them with the knowledge, the skills, and the resolve that they need to break the cycle of poverty in their families. For this audience, building employability skills and entrepreneurship is most critical because we have a promise that we're going to offer them education that translates to better economic realities. So we have 2 key strategies that we are pushing very strongly, and I'm going to share them in a bit. The first one is what we call action learning. Through action learning, lessons are designed to foster critical thinking and problem-solving skills amongst the children, everyday lessons. So this is first driven by lesson planning, assessment of their comprehension levels, our methods of assessment. So teachers know that we are not so much about regurgitating information, but we want deep learning to occur so that it translates to a skill building experience for them. So while this happens in singular lessons, we have a second thing that we do that happens in the 6th week of every school term. We call it the hackathon. So we've started out from week 1 and learning is immersive. We want the learning to be practical. There are debates in class, there are arguments in class, but all of it culminates on the 6th week with something we call hackathon. Hackathon provides young people the opportunity to take on different things they've learned from week 1 to week 6 and actually apply them in a real life situation. All right, so what happens is we break the children into teams. So first they learn how to work in teams, and then we give them real life experiences. So they would solve problems like around entrepreneurial problems like going on market research, designing a product for a particular audience, and then we'll also take on to have them sample. We also take from entrepreneurship, we move them into experiences like we move them from entrepreneurship into campaign designs, where we ask them to design projects around climate change based on the context of their community, making it realistic in the space that they're in. And then sometimes we take it even further. This is like the 3 pillars for the hackathon. We take it further and we ask them to identify a suitable solution for a particular problem. And I'm just going to share a quick story. We have this child that when he first came into school, I won't call his name, he struggled a bit with reading and writing. But we saw that he's articulate, but there's a barrier of language of instruction. So during one of the hackathons, we put him in a team with really exceptional students and asked them to go into a particular area to sample different products and pick one which was most suitable for a particular situation. To be really direct, we asked them to go and sample pieces of wood material and tell us which one they thought was the most appropriate for school furniture. What we found out when they got back was of the entire team, he was the one person who didn't write whatever they told them at the timber shade, but he had the most information. And he was the most articulate about it. So in these kind of scenarios, we find that providing young people with practical experiences where they test what they are learning can help those learners who are not so academic and who don't have the ability to regurgitate information. You give them the opportunity to experience education hands-on. And so for us, this reinforces the need that if we want to really teach skills, it may not necessarily happen inside the classroom with definitions and memorizing features, but providing young people with practical experiences where they can apply the knowledge they have, they can think, they can debate, they can argue. We think that those are the practical experiences that can support our young learners. So those are 2 things we're doing at the North School. The first is the action learning, where we are making sure that learning is immersive. It's not about the definition, but it's experiential. They are talking to their teachers. They can ask their teachers questions. They can differ from their teachers. And then hackathon, where we allow them take what they've been learning in school to apply in a practical, real-life situation they can relate with, not abstract, something happening in their space, and giving them the opportunity to apply what they've learned and build skills in the process. So that's it for us, the action learning and the hackathons.
Thank you so much, Irene. Wow, that's a lot of stuff. So it's really interesting because in the school system, where we have the traditional sort of teacher-led type of instructional teaching, children are so used to being told what to do. And so it's interesting to hear that you've got very practical sort of student-led, they're involved in their own learning, they're able to openly ask questions. So how has that been with it? Just one question before we move on to Bright. And how has that been? Because you've got the cultural aspect to all this, because it's not easy for our children to sort of to debate with a teacher, to ask the teacher to be so active in the learning process. So how have you been able to overcome this?
So this is really easy. This is so interesting for us. Culture, school climate, school culture. That's what we've done. helping the students know from the very first day of school that this is a school that is learner-centered. That means we're here to listen to you. And so we want to hear your questions so that we know where you're at. And we've been able to situate that teachers are here to support you. And so that has really helped our children to be more vocal. So it starts from the very first day of school. And I've heard students say that the moment they come in through the gates, they feel like they're in a new environment. So we've been able to put this in place using the school culture. So this is not just something one teacher does. This is what every teacher does. This is what academic and non-academic staff are already oriented with, and that's how we're able to get the kids to open up as much as they do through in the course of the learning process.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you, Irene. So we might come back to you as well. We're getting short of time. I would like to bring on Bright. Bright is also a Teach for Nigeria alumni and also the founder of EduSort. And Bright is involved in STEM education. So hello, Bright. How are you? Are you on? Are you there? Hi, Bright.
He seems to be having some technical challenges.
Okay, no problem. I'll go back to Irene. Irene, I just wanted us to go back to the discussion that we just had now. In terms of resources, because you're talking about 100 Naira a day. Now, in terms of looking at what they're paying and the resources that it takes to do a lot of the activities and the strategies that you're putting into place, how have you been able to manage that? I'm just curious, are parents involved? Is the community involved? How are you doing this? Over to you, please, Irene. Hi, Irene. Are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you now. I hope you heard my question.
Yes, I got the best part of it, but I want to know, did you ask where I am based?
No, I was asking you, Irene, that in terms of, you mentioned that, it's 100 Naira a day. 100 Naira a day is, it's not a lot of money. And you talked about a lot of the activities, curriculum changes, a lot of the activities and interventions that you're doing, as well as the fact that you're talking about books, lunch, sanitary pads, uniform, for less than $1. Significantly, it's 100 Naira a day. So I'm just wondering, how did you get the parents and the community involved in this? Because this sounds like a completely different way of teaching and and culture in our schools.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the question. So yes, it's 100 Naira a day. That's about 30 cents. I'm going to start by saying thank you to Nigerians, because the school has been primarily sustained through social media crowdsourcing, where people outside are co-sponsoring children. Some are matching children for the same 100 Naira a day. Some are so the people coming in to support the children. And what we've been able to do so far is to tell people that you don't need to adopt a child wholly. You can just contribute. For each child, the cost of education is 66,000 Naira. So parents are paying a little less than 10%. And then we're crowdsourcing the rest. And so we've just been in one school year, but we've been blessed to have Nigerians from different parts of the world, different parts of Nigeria, just continue to co-sponsor children in school. So that's how we've been able to sustain. And also we've tried to use resources within the school, because we know that if we had to go out to start buying, it would be really difficult to even maintain the 66,000 Naira cost. So we try to create our resources in the school, and it provides a skill building opportunity for teachers who may not have worked in this kind of atmosphere. So because we are really creating our materials locally, it helps keep the costs low. And then we have people sponsoring children to keep them at the nurse school.
Yes, thank you, Irene, because that's amazing. I was saying to when I visited a school, I think it was in Lagos State or Ogun State, I wasn't sure, but a lot of the schools have quite a bit of playground and areas around the buildings. And, you know, they could have gardens, they could, you know, you have resources within your compound that you could use in terms of, you know, being able to build whatever activity it is. I recall that the children, you know, at one point decided that they were going to do their own farming and had practical skills, and essentially went to one corner of the school ground, and they were able to, you know, plant their own vegetables, etc. And then we're practicing how to sell these vegetables. I think that we have a lot of resources around us that we could potentially use. So thank you, Irene. Finally, I'd like to move on to Bright, who I believe has joined us now. So welcome, Bright, and could you share some of your experiences in terms of your STEM education? Are you there, Bright? Welcome.
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Mrs. Nika. It's my pleasure to be here. So I'll be sharing some of the important things I've been doing to be able to get learners to learn and prepare them for the future of work. To be able to survive in the 21st century. These skills includes communication skills, collaborative skills, and the question for me is, how would I have done this positively in a way that I'll be able to make sure that in the world that we are in today, these kids are better prepared to be able to meet up with what it is in other parts of the world, irrespective of the fact that they are from low-income communities. For me, I understand the place of STEM education in preparing the present generation for the future of work. And so for me, I decided to start, first of all, by training the teachers, because I understand that the teachers will be the one who has scaled this in the classroom. In as much as I had to improve the skills of these learners, I first of all started by training the teachers, giving them the necessary skills and pedagogies that they will be able to use in fostering a STEM-based education, thereby preparing the learners with the necessary skills that is expected of them. I also found that most of my children felt that they couldn't face the world as it's expected of them. So I collaborated with schools and organizations from other parts of the world. Basically, I used a platform called Level Up Village, where these kids that I've been working with had to collaborate with kids from the United States, kids from Australia, kids from Canada, to be able to get to learn and solve problems that are happening in their community by sharing knowledge and collaborating effectively. This helped improve my learners' basic science skills as well as literacy skills from 20% up to about 70%. These were kids who could not talk, who could not speak English, who were not willing to communicate. But immediately I got them involved in these collaboration classes. You see them coming up all the time to say, Mr. Bright, when are we having the next collaboration class? So I understood that STEM is very, very important in preparing our present generation for the future of work. Research has shown that 50% of jobs in 2030 will be STEM-based. And if we don't put this into consideration in preparing the learners that we are working with, irrespective of their social background, irrespective of what it is that might be affecting them, will be shortchanging their generation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bright. Look, I totally agree with you, because I think that if we look at the traditional way of learning, where children are essentially just memorizing and taking notes and really not being active in their own learning, that we're not really achieving educational outcomes, and neither are we actually preparing them with the life skills that they need. So skills like critical thinking, creativity, problem solving, we said earlier, skills like entrepreneurial skills, especially with the youth in Nigeria. Not everyone's going to find a formal job, so we need to prepare them also for the future in terms of entrepreneurial ventures as well. So very quickly, Bright, a last question to you. What were the challenges, or any particular challenge that you encountered when you were doing this? And very quickly, is there any advice you would give, just one advice, in terms of STEM education to anyone that may be having challenges in a low resource area? So very quickly, if you could just approach that for us very quickly.
So one of the challenges I faced was the fact that whenever you talk about STEM education and STEM interventions, we always believe that it has to be with a robotic kit. It has to be with the already made kits that are probably being sold in other parts of the world, and we get them into Nigeria. But for me, I understand STEM education to be majorly solving problems with things that you find around your community. And so for me, one of the ways I was able to kind of inculcate this into our classroom and make sure that children that I was working with, and I have been working with, see a reason to take this very serious, is that I looked beyond just those STEM kits that have been provided. I decided to get in the minds of these children to understand that they could use basic materials in their environment.
Excellent. So Bright, we're going to have to wrap up now. I want to thank you all, to our panelists, Molade, Temitokbe, Irene, and Bright. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us. And we apologize once again for the technical problems that we had earlier on, but we did try to manage the time that we had. So thank you so much to our panelists. And we apologize to all our attendees for not being able to take your questions today because of timing. But thank you for joining us. Bye-bye. Thank you. And thank you to our panelists.